I always thought I knew her. That's the worst part. It wasn't like she was distant. It wasn't like she was secretive. If anything, she was the most organized, responsible person I had ever dated. That's why this blindsided me. Her name is Eilina. We met 3 years ago at a mutual friend's birthday party. She was the kind of person who didn't demand attention but somehow always had it. Calm voice, thoughtful answers, smart, ambitious. She worked in marketing for a mid-sized company and talked about long-term financial stability. On our third date, I remember thinking, wow, this one plans ahead. That mattered to me. I grew up watching my parents fight about money constantly. Bills, loans, credit cards. I promised myself I would never live like that. Stability wasn't just a preference for me, it was survival. So when Eilina talked about savings, retirement accounts, budgeting apps, I relaxed. For the first time in my life, I felt like I was building something solid with someone. The future we planned. 2 years in, we moved in together. We split rent evenly. We split groceries. We opened a shared spreadsheet for household expenses. She was meticulous with numbers. She'd say things like, if we save aggressively for 2 years, we could put a down payment on a small house. Music to my ears. We talked about marriage, kids, even what city we might settle in long term. And here's what you need to understand. She never once gave me a reason to doubt her. Not once. The first crack. It started small. One evening, we were sitting on the couch, laptops open, casually browsing houses just to look. She seemed distracted, checking her phone constantly. Then her phone buzzed again. She glanced at it, and her entire face changed. I've never seen someone go pale that fast. I asked, everything okay? She forced a smile. Yeah, just work. But I noticed she turned the phone over, screen down. That stuck with me. The mail. About a week later, I came home early from work. There was a stack of mail on the kitchen counter, mostly junk. And then I saw it. A thick envelope, red lettering. Final notice. It was addressed to her. I swear, I didn't mean to snoop, but it wasn't sealed properly. The top was slightly open, and I saw the word, collections. My stomach dropped. Collections. For what? We split everything. She made good money. She talked about investing. She corrected me when I miscalculated percentages. This didn't make sense. I put it back exactly how I found it, and I waited. The confrontation. That night, I tried to act normal. I failed. She noticed immediately. You're quiet? She said. I hesitated. Then I asked, carefully, are you in some kind of financial trouble? Her reaction wasn't confusion. It wasn't offense. It was fear. Real, visible fear. And that's when I knew. There was something. She looked at me for a long time before saying, why would you ask that? I mentioned the envelope. Silence. The kind that stretches so long you start hearing your own heartbeat. Finally, she whispered, it's not what you think. That sentence is never good. Never. The truth. Or part of it. She admitted she had some debt. Student loans, she said. Plus a few credit cards. Everyone has debt, she added quickly. And she was right. I had some too. So I asked the obvious question. How much? She didn't answer immediately. She stared at the table. Then she said, it's complicated. I felt irritation rising. How much? Eilina. And then she said it. So quietly I almost didn't hear it. About 200. I blinked. 200. She nodded. I actually laughed. Okay, that's manageable. Then she clarified. 200,000. It felt like someone had just sucked all the oxygen out of the room. Breaking down the number, I did the math in my head. $200,000. Not including interest. I felt dizzy. How? I asked. And that's when the real story began to unravel. Where it came from. It wasn't just student loans. It was private student loans from a degree she never finished. Credit cards she used to support her family. a failed business attempt, medical bills from years ago, personal loans she took out to consolidate other loans. Layer on top of that, interest. Years of it. She'd been making minimum payments, barely keeping it from exploding. I asked the question that had been building inside me. Why didn't you tell me? Her answer crushed me. Because I knew you'd leave. The real betrayal? Here's the thing. It wasn't just the money. It was the deception. For 3 years, we talked about buying a house. For 3 years, we talked about building a future. And the entire time, she knew she was carrying a financial time bomb. She said she was handling it. She said she didn't want it to become my problem, but it already was, because we were planning a life together. And she let me believe something that wasn't true. The emotional spiral. That night we didn't sleep. We argued. We cried. We sat in silence. I wasn't angry about the debt itself. I was angry about the lie, the omission, the fact that I had built my sense of security around a version of reality that didn't exist. And here's the part that really messed with my head. I still loved her, even after that. Even sitting there, staring at this mountain of financial disaster. I loved her. But love doesn't erase math. The question that haunted me. At 3 a.m., staring at the ceiling, one thought kept repeating. If we get married, does that become mine? What happens to my credit? My savings? Our future? Was I signing up to spend the next decade digging out of a hole I didn't help create? Or was I abandoning someone I claimed to love when things got hard? That's the kind of choice no one prepares you for. And then it got worse. Because the next morning, I found out something she hadn't told me yet. The $200,000. That wasn't the full number. I thought I'd already heard the worst of it. I was wrong. The morning after she told me about the $200,000, we sat at the kitchen table, like two strangers negotiating a contract instead of a couple, planning a future. Neither of us had slept. Her eyes were swollen from crying. Mine burned from staring at the ceiling all night, calculating numbers over and over in my head. 200,000. But something still felt off, because even with private loans and bad interest, the math wasn't clean. I asked her to show me everything, all of it. No more complicated, no more summaries. Everything. She hesitated. That hesitation told me more than any number could. The spreadsheet? She opened her laptop. I'll never forget the sound of her typing in her password. Her hands were shaking. She had a spreadsheet. Of course she did. Every debt listed, balances, interest rates, minimum payments. And then I saw the real total. $247,318. Not $200,000. $247,000. I looked at her. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. She had rounded down by almost $50,000. And in that moment, something inside me cracked. Where the extra $47,000 came from. That part isn't really mine, she said quickly. I just stared at her. It's my mom's. I thought I misheard her. What? She swallowed. My mom's credit was destroyed years ago, when my dad left. Medical bills, eviction, everything. She couldn't qualify for anything. I already knew where this was going. So you took loans out for her. She nodded. Personal loans. 2 credit cards. 1 consolidation loan. All in her name. She'd been sending money home every month since before I met her. Helping with rent. Helping with utilities. Helping with her younger brother's tuition. All while telling me she was building savings. She wasn't building savings. She was plugging holes in a sinking ship. The double life. That's when I realized something terrifying. I didn't actually know her financial life at all. She had a separate checking account I didn't know about. Automatic transfers leaving every month. Loans I had never seen. Late notices she intercepted before I got home. All while sitting across from me planning down payments. I felt stupid, not just betrayed. Stupid. How long were you going to keep this from me? I asked. She didn't answer, because we both knew the truth. Forever. The credit check. And then she said something that made my stomach drop. There's something else. Of course there was. She told me she had missed 3 payments recently because her mom lost her job again, which meant her credit score had dropped below 600. We had been talking to a mortgage advisor. I had already started preparing documents. I checked my phone. I had an unread email from the mortgage advisor. Subject line, regarding joint application. I opened it. They couldn't move forward because of her credit profile. That's how I found out. Not from her, from a lender. The argument that changed everything. I wish I could say I handled it calmly. I didn't. I asked her why she thought it was okay to let me plan a future based on lies. She cried and said she was trying to fix it before it mattered. Before it mattered. We were looking at engagement rings. It already mattered. I told her I felt manipulated. She said I was making her feel ashamed. I said this wasn't about shame. It was about honesty. She said I didn't understand family. Responsibility. That hit hard because she was right. My parents never depended on me financially. I never had to choose between my partner and my family. But I also never signed up to inherit someone else's financial collapse. The breaking question at one point I asked, if we get married, does your mom expect us to keep paying? She didn't say yes. She didn't say no. She said she doesn't have anyone else. And that was the moment. I understood something clearly. This wasn't a past problem. This was a permanent one. Her family. Wasn't it temporary? Crisis. They were structurally dependent on her. And if I married her, that dependency would become ours. Love versus Logi cares what no one tells you. Love doesn't disappear just because reality gets ugly. When she cried, I still wanted to hold her. When she said she was scared I'd leave, I felt that fear to. But when I opened that spreadsheet, all I could see was numbers. Interest accumulating every second. Minimum payments that barely touched the principal. Years, maybe decades of financial restriction. Kids, delayed. House, unlikely. Travel, forget it. Retirement, questionable. And I had worked so hard to build stability. Was I about to trade it for chaos? The ultimatum I never wanted to give. 3 days later, after non-stop tension, I told her we needed a plan. Not promises, not I'll figure it out. A real plan. Budget, debt strategy, transparency, financial counseling. And one more thing. No more loans for your mom. She looked like I had asked her to choose between oxygen and water. That's my mother, she said. And I'm your partner. I replied. Silence. Heavy. Brutal. Because we both knew what this really was. Not a money problem, a values problem. And then, that night, her mom called. Speakerphone. I didn't mean to overhear, but I did. Her mom was crying, talking about eviction, about needing just a little help. And then I heard the sentence that changed everything. You can put it on one of your cards. You always figure it out. You always figure it out. Like this was normal. Like this was expected. Like this was her role. Not daughter, provider. The realization she wasn't just in debt. She was trapped. Emotionally, financially, psychologically. And if she couldn't set boundaries with her own family, what chance did our future have? The decision looming a week past. Tense, cold, careful. We barely touched, barely laughed, barely recognized each other. And then she came to me one night and said, I made a decision. I didn't know if I was about to lose her or lose myself.